Predator 2, the 1990s sequel to the awesome cult classic Predator. This, of course, saw us far-flung into the futuristic world of LA in 1997. That's the setting anyway. So I recently sat down to watch the sequel, as I normally do with some of these films that I really do enjoy, and I thought, I haven't actually reviewed this film, so I'm going to bring you the review. It is a much hated and much loved, and somewhere in the middle where some people sit. And recently watching it again, I've got to say, it is very much of its time. This movie is really of its time. It is a 90s movie through and through. It's written by Jim and John Thomas, the guys who wrote the original Predator. So it's good to have the original guys on hand, there again, getting their thoughts across. And you can feel it as well when you're watching the film. There's a similar tone, a similar vibe, but obviously different directors. This was by Stephen Hopkins, who actually hasn't done an awful lot since, and definitely not anything really in the same style. And it has the incredible score from Silvestri as well, and it really does bring it to life. It's a fantastic score which works very well, especially in that setting, and he did a great job to adapt from the original score and bring the kind of flavour into a new setting and a new world. It's a good sequel in my eyes, first and foremost, I will say that, but like I said at the start of the review, it is very much of its time. It is a 90s movie. Everything is action-packed, everything is hyped up beyond belief, and it's the setting as well, LA, this war-torn LA that they're trying to kind of picture here. And it is set in the future, technically, 7 years in the future, war-torn LA. It's interesting, it's really kind of bombastic, and there's a flair for the dramatic when you're watching this film, but it's good. And this is one of those rare films which I thought this today, and I never say this about films, but it's one of those films which I genuinely think if you were to remake it with modern day sensibilities, I think you would actually end up with a much better product. And I know that's blasphemy for so many people. So many people would sit there and say, my God, what are you doing, Mr. H? You can't say that. But when you break apart this film kind of bit by bit, and their scenes and things like that, it's a good film. It's a really good film. There's some scary scenes here. You've got the subway sequence where the Predator is crawling on top of the subway train and breaks through, and it's dark, and you've got strobe light effect, and it's murdering people left, right and centre. That's a great scene, but it's tonally just not where it could be in the film due to the era that it was made. You then also have the awesome scene with the Jamaican drug gang and their voodoo magic man and all of that, and that's, again, excuse my accent, it's a great scene, but if you were to remake that with modern day sensibilities and the modern day effects and cinematography of today, I think that could have brought it to life just that bit more. And if we're talking about scene by scene, you can't escape the end scene, or one of the end scenes anyway, one of the last action set pieces when they're in the meat slaughterhouse. That scene is pulled directly from Aliens. The whole thing is pulled directly from Aliens. You've got the motion tracker, you've got the group of military men, obviously these are the feds, but they're being surrounded and it's there, where is it, it's there, where is it, and then picks them off one by one. That whole scene is pulled directly from Aliens. And if you don't believe me, go back and rewatch it. I seldom kind of compare films like that or say things have been ripped off, but that scene really was, even down to the people going dead on the line, on the communication line. It's pulled directly from it, but it's a fantastic scene, and like I say, this is one of those rare films that if it was remade with today's sensibilities, the cinematography of today, the effects, the camera equipment, everything, I think Predator 2 would have turned out to be a much better film. But on a whole, let's kind of just break it down and discuss it, because it's actually a really decent film from start to finish. Like I said, it's of its time, and you have to take that into account when you're watching it. But you're following Detective Harrigan, brilliantly acted by Danny Glover, and he is the stereotype of a badass cop. He is taking on essentially all of LA's drug crime and their crime gangs and the crime bosses and everything like that. He is taking them on single-handedly with his team. But then of course things run astray and we have the city hunter or a predator coming into the mix and coming into the fray. But The focus on the detective story part is quite good, and it's peppered in here and there with the Predator doing his own thing, which is really, really good. And again, it's essentially just taken directly from the first film. You have the militaristic men on their mission, they're special forces, they're on a mission, they've got to do this thing, and the Predator is doing his thing. But this one, the sequel does that, but it flips it just a little bit, because you have the Predator essentially just off doing his own thing, and because the detective is obviously investigating everything that's going on, kind of gets involved here and there, and it works in very, very nicely with it. It's a great way to kind of coincide two people which generally speaking wouldn't have met at all, especially in that setting. It's really, really good. The use of cinematography in this film is actually really good for its time. There's a scene, and I'll try and put it on the screen, where we have a bird's eye view camera, and it pans down, but it also shifts to the right, shifts to the left, comes down, drops down, and follows this detective. And it's very, very, very good, especially for the 90s. And that's a bit of cinematography from me from a technical standpoint that actually really, really stood out, because of course, like everything with technology and cinema and theatre, it's improved as the years have gone by, and it's not something I was expecting. It's not something which I remembered. I think the other times I've watched this film I have been a bit too wrapped up in it, but when I watched it with the aim to do this review, it's something that really, really did jump out, and it's fantastic. And there's a few things like that which are sprinkled through this film. Really, really great. There's an upward shot as the Predator jumps through the skyline. Fantastic. Really, really great. So yeah, you got to hand it to it. Although it is a somewhat disliked film, there's some very good technical aspects through this. The Predator design work is awesome. Great way to bring the Predator back, but distinguish it from the original and set the species apart. But then also, in terms of opening up the mythos even more, very, very smartly done. You have the Predator ship, you have the numerous Predators, you even have the details of the trophy. So you know clear-cut confirmation what they were doing in the first one, so you can relate it back. So they were very smart when they wrote this film. But then also it does add more questions, which is, again, very, very good, because it leads it off to open the franchise up further. Of course, your thoughts on the later installments we can discuss at a later point, and it's forgivable because it's kind of its time, and it's not that bad when you're comparing it to the other movies which are around that kind of era. But it's not to say that it's not bad. Some of the acting was atrocious. The score was great. Some of the scenes, like I say, you break it down scene by scene, it's a great film, just from a scene-by-scene basis. But what really jumped out to me, and this is something which I would like to ask you guys, is that do you think this is a film that if it was remade by today's standards, that it would be better than the Predator 2 that we got? And when you're answering that question, I want you to think about the scenes which I've mentioned. So the subway scene, could that be like a horror scene? Because I truly think it could be. The Jamaican drug gang voodoo scene where they're getting the Colombian all cut up and the Predator steps in, could that be a scene of pure horror? I genuinely think so. And then again, the scene in the slaughterhouse, that's something which I think could have been, with a little bit more budget and today's sensibilities, I think that could have been absolutely terrifying. But let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. This is kind of a roundup review of Predator 2. I'm going to be jumping on to Predators next, so I know it's a little bit incoherent here and there, but everyone's seen Predator 2 by now. I mean, what we're talking, it's like 28, 29 years old. You know, it's a long time coming now. So I'm not going to say spoiler warning or anything like that on a review for this. I will do a non-spoiler review of Predators and a spoiler review of Predators because it's a little bit newer. Not everyone's seen it. But what do you think of Predator 2? Do you like it? Do you dislike it? Like I say, to me, it's forgivable for some of the trash that it has, but it's only forgivable because of its time. When you look at it from an actual writing perspective, it's quite good, but I can appreciate that a lot of people don't like it. Of course, it doesn't hold anything up to the first one at all. No. The first one is truly unmatchable in my eyes. So guys, let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. If you enjoyed this review, give it a big thumbs up, give it a share. And if you're new here, hit that subscribe button, as that really helps me and the channel out. If you are not a patron yet, but you want access to Patreon live streams, Patreon game playthroughs, head on over to my Patreon page via the link in the description box, especially if you want to support me in the channel, because a lot of my videos are being demonetized now, and that sucks. obviously. So guys, let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. As always, I've been Mr. H, and I will catch you in the next video.